Good morning. I want to ask a really important question here. How do you know what's right and what's wrong? Well, most of us would answer, well, we just know. But the truth is, no, we don't just know. We've learned that from somewhere. We've learned what's right and what's wrong. Proof of this is if two young kids, maybe 2, 3 years old, are fighting over a toy, which if anybody's had more than one kid in that age range, you know that happens, okay? But if two little kids are fighting over a toy and one takes the toy away from the other, or even more, if there's two toys and one takes both of them, we say, well, that's not right. Well, how do we know? Why is that not right? Who says that that's not right? Let's take it into our time. A protester. And let's say that this protester was raised in poverty and has all sorts of things that have been going against them, but they break into a business and they steal a TV and then they set the business on fire. Well, somebody says, well, that's not right. Well, who says? Doesn't he have the right to do that? Doesn't he have the strength to go do that? Who says that what he did is wrong? Maybe two business partners work together for years and years to build a business, and they build their company up until it's a very reputable, strong company, and then one betrays the other and persuades their board of directors to push the other one out. Obviously, we stand back and say, well, that's not fair. Why? Why is that not fair? Is that not just the stronger winning out? Is that not what is right because it is of might? Well, no, we say, no, there's something more to that than simply who's strongest. We have a sense of what is right and what is wrong. But where do we get that? Where do we get our definition of what is right and what is wrong? All of us want to live in a society that is fair and just for all people. So where do we get that standard that's going to allow us to be a fair and just society? Where are we going to get the measuring rod that tells us what is right and wrong? Well, first of all, we're not going to get it from science. There are many who advocate that in science all the answers to everything is there, but we're not going to get it in science because science would advocate, actually, that whatever happens, happens. It doesn't matter. There is no right or wrong. There is just what happens, okay? And we're not going to get it from a vote of the people because a majority of the people may choose to do something that is in fact very unjust for others. Or we're not going to get it by strength. This is going back to the stronger of the 3-year-olds, or who is the stronger business partner, or who even has the strength to burst into a business and steal. Just because the strength is there, does that make it right? Obviously, we would say no in an instant. So we don't lean on any of those things for our definition of what is right and wrong. Let me read you a scripture. I'm going to read to you from Psalm 119, which is the longest chapter in the Bible. Magnificent, magnificent passage. But it's broken up into sections of 8 verses each. And I want to read to you, starting in verse 33 of Psalm 119. Teach me, O Lord, the way of your statutes, and I shall observe it to the end. Give me understanding that I may observe your law and keep it with all my heart. Make me walk in the paths of your commandments, for I delight in it. Incline my ear to your testimonies and not to dishonest gain. Turn away from my eyes from looking at vanity and revive me in your ways. Establish your word to your servant, that which produces reverence for you. Turn away my reproach, which I dread, for your ordinances are good. Behold, I long for your precepts. Revive me through your righteousness. Well, there's the answer. Where do we get our definition of good and bad, of good and evil, of just and unjust? Where do we get our definition for that? What is the measuring rod? It all comes to us from the mind of God. Truly, He is offering us a way to have a standard by which we live. In effect, it's kind of an owner's manual for us. The way that people function best is to do things according to the manufacturer, according to our maker, according to our creator, God Himself. So, step back. And how does this get applied? Well, we define what is right and wrong because for us to be a fair and just society, we've got to surrender to His authority. We have to humbly bow before Him. We cannot argue with the creator of the universe and say, well, I think my ways are as good as yours, because obviously they are not. He is the standard. He is the good God. He is the righteous one. And so we humbly bow before that authority. And we carry this out by following that standard. You know, when there are neighbors who don't get along, or there are neighbors who do get along, the difference may be because there are some who are following His will and some who are not. We see the power of His will enacted in us. We see that standard at work in us so that it really does work in human life. And neighbors get along with neighbors. Families live in peace. Communities are safe. And even nations rise up to righteousness when they submit themselves to this standard set forth by God. Wouldn't we all like to live in that perfect society? Wouldn't we all like to live in a situation where we have the righteousness of God that surrounds us at all time? Well, we know that we don't live in that kind of a world right now. But there is that promise. Peter writes to us about the fact that he is looking for that this world in which we live is going to be destroyed by fire. And yet he is looking for a new heaven and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. We have that promise as Christians, that if we will abide by His standard right now, our world is better for it. And we are closer to God, and our survival is better. Simply our way of life is better if we abide by His standard. But even to the best of our standard, we are still flawed. But there is coming that time for those who have put their trust in God, that we are going to live in this, what Peter calls, new heaven and new earth. Actually, John referred to the new heaven and new earth too in Revelation. This new heaven and new earth in which righteousness dwells. Someday, we are going to live in that society in which the righteousness of God rules everything that we do. And when we do, it is a place of joy. It is a great place of peace. It is a place of perfect harmony because it is ruled by the righteousness of God. We can do all that we can right now to live that way. And I would encourage certainly all of us as Christians, that's what we're all about right now, is to demonstrate to the rest of the world what it means to follow this standard. But understand, Christian, though we stumble and though things go terribly wrong sometimes, there is coming that time that we get to live in a world where we don't have to ask what is right and wrong, because that which is right will rule eternally. What a wonderful, wonderful thing to think about today. As we move about our day, think about the ultimate righteousness of God, and we trust in that. And we know what is right because he's given it to us. I hope you have a great day living in the righteousness of God. Bye.
They resound with God's own heart. Oh, let the ancient words impart. Words of life, words of hope.